Hello, everybody. This is Paul Tinkle, and welcome to this week's 30 Minutes program. My guest today is going to be Assistant Police Chief Phillip Fuqua. He has been in this town for many, many years, loves his community, and is a great asset to Thunderbolt Broadcasting because he makes sure that we know what's going on in the event that there is something that you need to know about. Chief, first off, let me just simply give you a minute here at the beginning of this program. As we talk about police officers, week was last week. This is a very, very special time for police officers and their families to take a moment and to just recognize the great work that they do and the opportunities that they have to protect themselves and protect us.
Paul, it's an important week for sure, and the numbers appeared to never really get a lot better on the numbers that we lose each year. And we've been very fortunate in our area, but it stings nonetheless. You know, we're all connected in some way across the country, and it's just an important week to recognize those that have fallen in the line of duty.
It almost seems like weekly we're losing police officers.
Yes, sir. It's become a little too common, and it's been that way for several years. But I think more recently we do hear more about it because of social media presence and so on and so forth. So it's been going on for a long time, and it's always just kind of a heart-wrenching situation because those folks also have families.
We're going to talk about something that I really am excited to see each year when there is a group of men and women who have gone through the Martin Police Department's academy, if you will, to learn how to be on your guard, how you can help your community, and also you might just end up getting in free somewhere. So, no, this is serious stuff. You have the Martin Police Academy. How many years have we done this now?
Well, it's been going on for about 30 years. We just completed actually our 33rd session because the first 3 years that they had this at Martin, they actually did 2 sessions per year. But that was a bit of a task, and as people got busier and busier with things in the fall of the year, it became almost impossible to pull one off in the fall. So we do this now each spring, starting in the first part of March.
What is a police academy?
Well, what we try to do is we invite people that live, work, own a business, own property, anything in the city of Martin, to come out and spend 10 weeks with us. It's a big commitment. 10 weeknights is a big thing, especially as busy as everyone is these days. But they come out with us, and we have 9 nights of lesson. And each night they usually get to experience 2 different topics. Fortunately, we have a lot of folks in-house that are trained in specialized topics, and we use that to pick who the instructors are for each course. And they get a pretty detailed hour and a half or so lesson on each one of these topics, and get to do a little bit of interactive scenario and mixed with some classroom stuff. And we want to familiarize folks with what we do every day and the purpose for those things and what kind of results and or consequences when we're performing those tasks. And then we also, throughout the 9-week academic portion, we require those folks to do at least 2 4-hour ride-alongs with one of our officers on patrol. And what that does is it gets to kind of combine what they've learned academically in a training room setting with what actually happens on the street. And usually it's pretty enlightening.
Now, this police academy began at the old police department in downtown Martin, and now you have more space to teach, if you will, and to be able to perform exercises?
Yeah, this used to be a pretty good chore at the old police department because we actually had these classes in the courtroom. So every week we had to set up as a classroom and then tear down to have court and board meetings and so on and so forth. So we're very fortunate now that we have a training room that's set aside for this purpose each Thursday night when we have this. And this actually began, I believe, in 1994.
So are we looking at over 600 people that have graduated?
We have surpassed 800.
Wow.
We're at around 825
yeah.
that have been through it.
These are people that live around here and make their home here and maybe went to school or still in school here.
Yeah, the hope and way it usually works out when we are selecting a class each spring is we want it to be just as absolute diversified as possible. We like having young people. We like having older people. We have some people, working groups that come, maybe 3-4 people in an organization come. And we want them to be people that are as different from one another as possible. And then we get them all in one room and we interact with them, and it's really neat because you get some different perspectives about different parts of the town, demographics, and everything, and it becomes very interesting.
If you just joined us, we're talking about the Police Academy at Martin. We're going to talk about some other things, too. Phillip Fuqua is our guest. He is the Assistant Martin Police Chief, and his task each day means that you are in the middle of everything that takes place. Am I correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I have some role in each piece.
Mm-hmm. And in talking about these men and women that come on, do you have to have a certain age, 18 or
21 is the current age in Tennessee to be a certified full-time officer.
I'm talking about for the Police Academy here in Martin.
Anybody 18 and over.
And do any of these who have gone through, have they become police officers in Martin?
Oh, yes. It's been a great recruiting tool for us. We have probably gotten, I'm going to say at least a half dozen officers that were graduates of the class. Because
they felt it.
Yeah.
Is being a police officer a calling?
Absolutely. Because
why do you say that?
It's one of those jobs, for one thing, you're not going to get rich, so it's not about the money. But it's one of those jobs, it's an oddity because there's nothing else like it. You don't get a chance to piddle around in it much, so to speak, before you actually sign on. And what we find out is it's a love it or hate it type of profession. It either you have to love it and you have to make sure that it's purposeful and you're purposeful in it, or it's just you're never going to be able to do it for any length of time.
Who are your graduates this year?
Oh, we had 25 this year, and
they all make it.
They all made it. There was a couple that was a close call, but we got them all through it. But we had Nicholas Boyd, Shelby Willett, Priscilla Price, Brooklyn Powers, Caitlin Covington, Abby Spence, Lucia Florido, Kimberly Fulcher, Christian Berkeley, Chelsea Morris, Dorothy Bell, Jessica Cooley, Courtney Mitchell, Whitney Mitchell, Jordan Moorhead, Melanie Taylor, Kim Alexander, Jeremy Jez, Nikki Jez, George Ellis, Alex Dunlap, Miss Jan Ellis, Gloria Bunch, and Casey Wainscott and Taylor Wainscott. Those were our 25 for this spring.
Can you, I don't want to steal anything here. Can you tell me about the first class?
Well,
or are you going to hold back? I don't want you to.
I can give you a little brief. On our first class, basically what we do is we introduce the officers to the students to the officers. Everybody comes. It's kind of standing room only that night. But we explain what each division does and just an overall view of the police department. And they get a tour of the building. But during that night, there might be a specific incident that occurs that everyone witnesses that plays a role throughout the entire 9 weeks. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave that.
Well, having known what it is, and full disclosure, my wife has been in this program, so we have an understanding. But what I found in talking to my wife is that it's a oh wow for you if you've never been involved in police work. A lot of people watch, the only thing they know about the police work is what they watch on TV. How closely is that to Martin, Tennessee?
Almost nothing. That's one of the things that we try to offset during this class is very, very small portion of police work actually reflects what you see on television. So we kind of make that known throughout the class and explain how things really work. And it's a bit more difficult than the 45-minute television show.
Let me stay with you on the police academy. What would week, say, 6 be about?
Week 6 would be, that's a fun week for sure. We have our special response team come in that week. And
what is a special response team?
Some may refer to that as a SWAT team, but that's our special response or special weapons and tactics. Those guys come in, they give a classroom piece. It's a brief overview of what their task is. Of course, at Martin Police Department, our SRT team is a part-time, those are patrol officers that also take on this other responsibility. But they show them a lot of stuff, information and demonstrations about the equipment that they utilize during their team performances. And then all of our students get to try on some of that equipment, and they get to perform some physical tasks around the building that emulate what a special response team might do, and kind of see what the weight of that equipment and bulk and so on and so forth kind of feels like. So they get to hear about things, and then they get to do some physical experiences that night. So they have a big time.
Tell me about week 3.
Week 3 is a pretty interesting week also, because that whole week is about, or night is about DUI enforcement, and we do what's known as a wet lab. We have 3 or 4 folks come in that have consumed different amounts of alcoholic beverages in a controlled environment, and they come in, and our class will get to participate in doing some field sobriety testing, and then collectively they get to try to determine what those 3 or 4 participants' blood alcohol level is based off those tests, and then of course they get a reveal at the end about what they actually were, and we see how good a job they did.
What's the wake up amongst the class? What is that one thing where, oh gosh?
Most of the time it's they didn't realize that all of those things happen in Martin, Tennessee. It's very fortunately, it's just not as frequent, but we have the same criminal activities as anywhere else. It's just at less frequency. But I think they're very surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask about the ride-along. Is that 1 per officer? Is that correct, or do you have more?
No, they get to come in and do, we ask them to do at least 2, and they ride along for 4 hours. They're riding along with a certified officer. Of course, they don't get to get out at the calls or whatever, but they get to stay in the vehicle and observe what's going on. And then when the officer gets back in, they have the opportunity to ask questions about why they did this or why they didn't do that. And, if something's really interesting, they can review it on video if they didn't get to actually witness it. And that's an eye-opener.
The thing that I have heard from some of the students is they didn't realize, number one, how big Martin is.
Mm-hmm.
They had never been on certain streets that they had no idea that there were streets in a certain area. Some people have gotten lost, didn't know how to get out of town or to get out of the wherever it happened to be. Those are things that I think are kind of wake up, particularly at night.
Yes, and there's a lot of people that are students in our class that just haven't spent a lot of time in the midnight hours, or it's been several years since they have. And that's another piece that I think is surprising to them, because we usually suggest their riding time to be from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. And there's just it's a different town.
What does it do to the police officer who has a ride along with them?
Well, I think it's a pleasant break for them in one aspect, because these guys spend a lot of time, in the car by themselves.
And let me be careful how we say this. When you use the term guys, we want people to know, I think, that you have both female and male officers.
Oh yeah. So. And they just spend an enormous amount of time, on patrol by themselves, because we're a one officer to a car department. And I think they really enjoy spending some time with somebody. But these folks are highly trained officers. One of the things that we're the most proud of at Martin Police Department is we do an excessive amount of training. And these folks are so excited about the things that they know.
Well, let me stop. What kind of training are you talking about?
Oh, we have people that are DUI instructors. We have domestic violence instructors, firearms instructors. We have people that are crash reconstructionists. We have, several people that are field training officers. Just anything that these folks get interested in, we try to send them to extensive training, We've got one fellow that is what they call a DRE. He's a drug recognition expert. It's a very difficult, extensive class, and he has the ability to spend time with some people and do some very specific testing. At the end of that evaluation, he can tell you what that person is under the influence of. Not, may not be alcohol at all, but what type of drug.
Let me piggyback that. To simply say that when you have police officers, sometimes you come across an accident, a bad accident. Are the police officers certified CPR?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're certified in CPR. Of course, we're very fortunate in Martin that we have the city ambulance service and fire service. So usually they're not very far behind, but yes, they are certified in CPR and first aid.
How's the radio, by the way, at night between 10 and 3 o'clock in the morning? Is it quiet, or is it a lot of chatter?
All or nothing. It's usually one way or the other. Midnight, Sundays, and holidays are usually all or nothing. So it can get pretty interesting, or it can be a long, boring evening.
Well, what's going on between 10 and 3 that someone who would be riding along as a part of the police academy and they see things they have never seen before, what would be those things?
Most of the time it revolves around, local bars and taverns and college events. I know myself, I try my best not to spend a lot of waking hours during that out and about. And I think that's the way the majority of folks are. And then when they come out and spend some time, they're like, "Oh me, I didn't know so many people were out stirring at 2 o'clock in the morning." And
what time do the bars close?
3 a.m.
So by that time they have to stop and close the door, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And what happens after 3 o'clock when those last patrons are leaving?
Well, we hope they all get a safe ride home, but unfortunately that's not always the case. So that's a pretty common time for impaired driving situations. And so a lot of our folks in our class this time had to witness that, and some folks having a bad evening and maybe getting arrested for driving while intoxicated.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go back to something about the 3 a.m. a 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. ride along, what else will they see?
Our guys and girls usually try to do some traffic stops, and let them experience that. That's also usually a little eye-opening because, the perspective is always, usually for these participants is from the other side of a traffic stop. And when they sit in the car and they watch an officer walk up to a vehicle that the officer has no idea, what the person's done, what kind of person it is, who it is, how many people's in the car, what their purpose is at the time. And they walk up to that vehicle alone in the dark. It's a little different perspective. And I think they begin to understand simple things like why most often there's two officers come to a traffic stop.
Yeah, why is that?
It's just an absolute safety feature. Because of what I just previously mentioned, that officer has no idea who he's about to talk to, and unfortunately, there's some things that can occur, like the person in the vehicle may have done something bad, but the officer's not even aware of it, but they think he knows or she knows. So when that officer walks up there, that's when things can go awry. So part of our practice is to have two officers at a traffic stop just to deter those things from happening.
Assistant Police Chief is with us today, and we're talking, of course, in the subject with Phillip Fuqua, the police academy that has over 700, is that almost 800 that you have? And these are people that have learned what it's like to ride along with a police officer, and for that fact, a lot of training inside, and I would suspect there are things where maybe they would never see it again, but sometimes you have to bring people in for breaking the law. Maybe it's a domestic, maybe it happens to be somebody that needed to be picked up and taken to helpline. But the bottom line is you get to see things that you'll never see anywhere else in person unless you are a police officer. I think it's safe to say.
That's correct. And one of the other good components about it is they see these officers do a lot of positive contact stuff that a lot of folks are not aware that they do. They see them, spend time and listen to children at these, could be a terrible incident at someone's house, but you may have an officer or two that's handling the actual criminal piece of that. And then you may have another officer or two that are just spending some time with victims and making them feel better for the moment, and helping people change a tire on the side of the road, just anything like that. And I don't think everybody's completely aware of how often that happens.
Let me see if this has happened. So let's just assume that someone has been picked up for intoxication. You have the person riding in the car during that time, and that person goes to the back seat.
Yes, sir.
They get to witness this, correct?
That is correct.
And that person then, in fact, would go to Martin Police Department, perhaps, maybe what you and I would call booking, and then that person would end up at the Weakley County Jail in Dresden. And so that's quite a learning curve just to see the process of picking someone up for DUI.
Sure. Yeah, they get to experience the whole thing.
Domestic or anything else that goes on.
Yeah, they get to just make that whole travel, throughout the whole process. They get to just stay with the officer.
I had a recent visit to the Weakley County Jail, and they do a terrific job there. Well organized. I'm telling you, some of the best custodians of the jail, and I'm talking about the people that clean up the trash. I'm talking about those officers in there. They are really good at what they do, and you just never know where you might want to be. Dispatcher, police officer, maybe to do sidewalk safety for some of the schools, and of course there are some other things that kind of circulate around as well.
Yes, sir, and we try to utilize this in as many ways as possible. And so one of our dispatcher training aspects for the Martin Police Department is we send our new dispatchers through this Citizens Police Academy.
The one thing that I know it's across America. We're losing police officers for one reason or another. Today, at any time, you never know when some police officer is going to get to take another position, maybe because a little more money, maybe it's closer to home, maybe it's because of better hours. I don't know, whatever the particular happens to be. But it's always seems in the last 3 years, we're having a hard time finding police officers for that fact.
Yes, sir. I think it's a multifaceted deal that is causing that. But the thing that has made me stay at Martin Police Department for as long as I have is this is my community. I feel like this allows me to make a positive impact on it. I enjoy the training and professionalism of Martin Police Department, and I think that's what's important to me. And with that in mind, we would also at the Martin Police Department like to put out a big thank you. As some may know, our current chief, Don Teal, is set to retire July of this year, and I know he feels the same as I've just spoken about the Martin Police Department, the community of Martin. He's spent 41 years with us, and he's been a great chief, and we're going to miss him, and we wish him good luck in his next adventure. His whole 41 years has been right here at Martin Police Department.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you don't see people that kind of stick-to-itiveness.
No, sir. No, sir. Not very often. But like I said, he has a big heart for this community, and he has stayed with it much longer than most.
So, if you're looking for police officers, what does a police officer look like?
A police officer has no particular look physically, but the person I want is someone who has the ability to listen to others and has compassion and common sense, and we can teach you how to do everything else.
And you also teach them how to fire a weapon?
Yeah, we can teach you all those things. Mm-hmm. Compassion is a little bit harder to teach, so that's what we look for in a candidate.
When you get pulled over by a police officer in Martin, Tennessee, and you're the one that's gone past that light a little too fast or a little too early or whatever it happens to be, that police officer is going to pull you over, and then what happens right then?
Well, they're just going to evaluate the situation. They're going to look at several things. Your driving history is going to be one of them.
Insurance card.
Yes, sir. And, then it's going to be up to the discretion of the officer about whether you get a citation or not. And normally in our town, statistically, about 33% of the people that we stop gets a actual citation, and then we give warnings to the others. We want people to slow down and drive correctly. But we don't want to be a speed trap.
One thing that I know that Chief Michael O'Neill and Don Teal, Chief of the Police Department at Martin, all say the same thing: slow down on University Street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's
thousands of people that walk across that street every single day in school.
That is correct. School zones and University Street just have to be extra careful.
I've learned a lot today, and I know our listeners did too. And I think the one takeaway that I have here is that police officers are business. It's a job. The word compassion used a moment ago, and well-trained, but they also have a heart. They care about the people.
Absolutely. That's what we are concerned with the most when we're choosing people to work with us at Martin Police Department.
You get the last word, Chief.
Just encourage anybody to come out next spring. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, the best way to get them answered is to come to our 34th session of the Citizens Police Academy. It'll start the first Thursday in March 2025.
Phillip Fuqua, our guest today here on 30 Minutes. Thanks so much for being with us and for educating us about some of the things behind the works of the police department, and also for continuing to make that police academy a special opportunity to learn more about what happens here in Martin, Tennessee.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.